Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Tribute Talk Faux Real. My name is Greg Thompson. I am your host and MC, and I'm also producer of the Sunburst Convention of Celebrity Impersonators. Now, I've got a special guest because I am in Orlando, and my guest is coming to me via the internet all the way from London, England, and her name is Caroline Bernstein. Hi, Caroline.
Hi, Greg. Hiya.
Hey, it's so good to see you on
Hi.
here. How are things over in London?
Well, we have Florida weather. It's 27 degrees, which is probably about 78 to 80
Oh, that's nice.
Fahrenheit. It's absolutely amazing.
Well,
Yeah,
good.
so it's good.
Do you like my background that I'm using? This is in your honor.
I loved it. When I first saw it, I thought, that's fantastic. I'm very impressed. In fact, I don't have one like that. Mine little ones, but I don't
Yeah.
have a large flag.
Well, everybody, I had the privilege and pleasure of getting to know Caroline this past year at the Sunburst Convention, and I knew who she was. I had seen her appear at the Real Awards and the Tribute Artist Convention over in Vegas, and I'd seen her pictures and such. So we want to find out a little bit about Caroline. Now, first of all, we're going to talk about right now. So how long have you been impersonating Sharon Osbourne, and what got you started?
I've been impersonating Sharon for about 15 to 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And incredibly, I was with a wardrobe makeup artist in a wig shop, and we were looking for a wig for Tony Blair's wife, Sherry Blair, at the time.
Oh, no kidding.
Because I do a lot of politicians. And we saw a red wig, and I said, oh, that looks a bit like Sharon Osbourne, because they were doing the Osbournes on TV, and they became a worldwide famous family.
Mm-hmm.
Due to that particular program. And I tried the wig on, and everyone in the shop said, oh, you look just like Sharon. So that's how it started.
And so had you been an impressionist for a while?
A long time, since
Mm-hmm.
the beginning of the 80s, really. I started doing Margaret Thatcher, and
Mm-hmm.
I was cast in a play, the lead Margaret Thatcher in a play, a comedy play in
Mm-hmm.
Rep, and it started then. So I think in a way I was meant to do lookalike work, but it is very different than doing impressions in a play or a character in a play. So
Mm-hmm.
I started off doing Maggie and the Queen and Joan Rivers in the 80s, and then it sort of tumbled into lookalike work, which is where I am at the moment. And Sharon came along with that.
Now, what did you do? I'm going to back up a little bit and then we're going to move forward again. What did you do years ago? What was Caroline doing in her early 20s, let's say?
Well, I was at drama school in
Mm-hmm.
London, and I immediately thought, this is definitely what I want to do for a career. And it was comedy and singing and character work. So I got a job because they were an agency. It was Italia Conti. So they acted as an agent, got a job in Rep when I was 19. And that was a long time ago. And it went on from there. And I just kept working. In those days, it was easier to get work. So I went from one Rep, one theatre job, and then I ended up in a theatre company for 3 years, a community theatre company, doing lots of character work, working with a jazz band, singing, old-time music hall, every type of area of entertainment, if you like. And it was a fantastic training ground. So from there, I just carried on. I did television. And this was in the 70s and the early 80s. And then I met a fantastic producer, Ken Campbell, who auditioned me as a lookalike, well, as an impressionist for his shows. And I first did an opera with him in Liverpool at the Everyman Theatre. And then we did this amazing show with lots of actors who could look like people when they've got the wigs on. So that's how I started as Maggie. And it went on from there. So that was the 80s, carried on doing television and adverts. And then in the 90s, I was doing stand-up comedy. I became an impressionist on the circuit without wigs. Without the wigs, just glasses, false teeth. You know, I was doing all the different accents. And then I was doing, I knew about the lookalike work, but I didn't think I would fit in because I look like this. And then, of course, wigs became obvious to me. The way forward would be to find the niche for me, which was, besides Maggie, was Joan Rivers. And then I went into Sharon. And so it tumbled into other characters and political people. And I worked with lots of lookalikes, and I got lots of agents who are lookalike agents.
That's wonderful. Well, let me ask you this now, for Joan Rivers, because that is she is American, and a lot of people from England, when they do impressions of or they say I can do an American accent, they have a tendency to do a Southern accent like mine, but even stronger. So I'm not going to put you on the spot, but how long does it take you to warm up to do Joan Rivers?
Ah, well, you know what, Greg? Oh, please, can we talk? I can go into Joan straight away because it took me a little while to get this voice without losing my voice. But I do. I'll grow up. So that voice is part of my makeup. It's part of like putting gloves on. And I love the New York type accent, if you like. It's always been a favorite. I've got relatives in New Jersey. And once I've got that voice, then of course I can do other voices that are husky and low. But I just do a lot of Americans. I love the deep South accents. So if I was doing Dolly Parton, I'd be up there. And I love doing the deep South. I've always loved that accent, probably nearly as much as my New York accent. So I do Dolly Parton, and I put on the wig sometimes, or I just do it in stand up. Sometimes I do it in stand up. I'm not quite big enough to do Dolly, if you know what I mean. But I love the deep South accent because the Clampetts. I used to watch a lot of comedy TV from the States when I was a kid, and that was one show I loved. And the deep South accent always stayed with me. And I don't know how accurate it is, but I could talk like that all day, and I love talking like that, Greg. So you can help me out there.
Oh, absolutely. Now, I don't talk like that, but
No,
when one of the acts that I do, I talk like that, and I know a lot of people who do talk like that.
Really?
So, yeah, there are different dialects in the South. So right, even where I'm from, within a 20-mile radius, there must be 5 different dialects. There's folks and they talk like this real slow. And then I got people and they talk and laugh at the same time. I had an uncle who did that, and my wife could not understand a word he said. He talked and laughed at the same time. But anyway, so you did Margaret Thatcher. She was very stoic.
Yes, she was. Well, I was going to say she reminded me of a sort of head teacher. So she'd be very patronizing. I always had my head slightly to one. Dennis, put that down to one side. And I got a lot of jobs in corporate, blue chip companies, doing speeches for the MD, congratulating them on a very successful year. But you could do better. It was always one of those where she always had the last word, very strong. And she would have that soft voice, and then she'd go down into a strong, strident voice. And so there was a mix. And I've got the wig, the lace wig, and everything. So she was my number one impression.
And you also, I bet. And I bet that was wonderful. Now, it's so funny in the tribute world, because if you can get the strong, as I say, flavor of the person, a lot of times people will come up and they go, "Oh my God, you are identical to them." And you go, "Well, no, I'm not. But if you think so, that's okay."
Well, I must say, I am a voiceover by trade. I started in the 80s having a voiceover agent. And then I got lots of work doing straight voiceover reads, and also comedy, character, and impressions, because you're allowed to do them. So that's how it all started. And I would study who was in at that moment in time. I mean, at the moment, it's Nicola Sturgeon, who's the First Minister of Scotland. So she's got a Scottish accent like that. Do you know what I mean? Which is very different to Margaret Thatcher. So there were, every accent is important to study, really. I think that's how it goes.
And you also do the Queen.
Oh, yes. Greg, it is such a pleasure to be here. And I notice you've got our national flag behind you. And shut up, Camilla. And it is actually my pleasure to announce that we are here, furloughed, of course, all 6 foot apart, with masks and little white gloves. But, we have to follow the rules. And soon we'll be able to go out for a longer walk. But at the moment, we're staying in. We're staying safe.
That is wonderful. Now, you do a one-woman show?
Yes, I did. Edinburgh Festival. I did a one-woman show there, and also I do stand-up. So I think the idea is, in the old days, I used to do a lot of after dinner speaking as me,
Mhm,
uh, just using all my different characters and tailoring the speech to suit that particular company. And that was fantastic. So I'm hoping to do more of that.
mhm,
Uh, I'm looking for new characters to do all the time. The
mhm,
trouble when I come to America is finding characters that people can identify with. So
mhm.
they know the Queen,
Yes,
obviously, and they know Sharon Osbourne if she talks like this because she does the talk
yes,
in Los Angeles. So
yes.
she's really known, and they like Sharon, and I love doing her.
And Sharon is also on America's Got Talent, or she was.
Well, she was, yes,
Mhm,
exactly. And over here, I did quite a few tribute shows, many, in fact, throughout the years, of X Factor, which is our show for pop idols, if you like. And Sharon and Simon Cowell lookalike and Louis Walsh were the three famous judges. And I would go out to another corporate blue chip company as Sharon, judging, but we'd always be kind to the artists if they were singing or dancing or
yes,
whatever. So
yes.
that went on for years, and I sort of produced that show with a lookalike, Simon Cowell, and that was fantastic. So I think her being on those huge shows back in America and here was
Mhm.
fantastic for my career because I
Yeah,
could do
and she
Britain's
was
Got
also
Talent and
on the
America's Got Talent.
Osbournes, like you were talking about. That was a
Yes,
huge television
yes,
show here.
it
It took
was.
Ozzy to a different level in the United States.
Well, he's always been the iconic figure. I mean,
Mhm,
nobody knew about Sharon. And I actually met her father in the early 80s. It was amazing coincidence. And in a strange way, I think she even went to my drama school at one point. There is a lot of coincidences about Sharon and her, well, say her background. I don't have the same amount of money, but you know what I mean? But it's
yes.
true that there is a connection, a little connection between us. And
Mhm.
that's been rather wonderful. And I have met her a few times as well. And
I
she's
was
been
gonna
very
say
kind.
you've met her,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, she's been really kind because she can see me not as a lookalike so much, but as a character actress, which is what she loves doing as well. So,
Jamie
yeah.
just said to tell you hello.
Oh, hello, Jamie. Another English or no, UK person in Staffordshire,
Yeah, well, the UK
um,
was quite represented at the Sunburst convention last year.
wasn't it? Because we had an Aussie, of course.
You had an Aussie,
Yes,
and you
we
had
did.
Jamie there, and you were there. It seems like somebody
Yes,
else was there.
possibly. I don't know. That this time round at the Real Awards, there was Harry, Prince Harry,
There we go. Yes,
and
I've not met him,
yes,
and I'm very
Gordon
impressed with
Ramsay.
him. Mhm.
Gordon Ramsay as well. We
Yes.
had so we had
Yeah.
about 4 or 5 of us in Vegas. But prior to that, at Sunburst, oh, Keith George, he's
That's
English.
who I was thinking of, duh.
Yes, of course, Boy George, and he lives in Tenerife, but he does work in England as
Yes,
well.
yes.
He never stops. He's
I
amazing.
knew there were
So
4.
yes, and we had the best time. It was. I'm so glad I came to Sunburst because I hadn't been before.
Mhm,
And Ozzy suggested I come. So I wanted to come anyway. And I thought, well, if Ozzy's going, it would be great to have a Sharon and Ozzy
mhm,
together. Because I think Don, who's at the other side, Don, who works as Ozzy in
mhm.
California, he wouldn't be around to do Sunburst. And I would have been quite lonely without an Aussie. So that's why we decided we'd both come. And he
Yeah, and
lives somewhere else. He's not in
yeah,
London.
and
But
what a
Sergio,
wonderful man, just
Sergio,
really pleasant. Yes,
oh, lovely, lovely guy.
yes.
I was very
Oh,
lucky
there
to
was
have met
another
him.
gentleman from England too, that did, um
Oh, Richard Branson look-alike. Fantastic.
well, no, he's not from England.
Oh,
He's from
okay.
here in Orlando. No, the
Okay.
guy, Al Pacino, the
Al
gentleman who
Pacino.
yes,
Yes,
he
that's
performed with Al
right.
Pacino, yeah.
There was
Mhm.
another British person. So it was very well represented.
Absolutely.
Um, and as I say, I felt very comfortable having Sergio there was great.
Mhm.
Although I've been to the other conventions without any Aussies before, it was still very nice.
Well, I think Sharon holds her own by herself here. I really do. So,
Ah,
that's
well,
wonderful.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. And the people that come to the Sunburst are fantastic. As you know, we're like one big family anyway. And I knew quite a few from the
Mhm.
other convention, and it was fantastic from the Real Awards.
Well,
So
good. Well,
yes.
we really enjoyed you, and we had something you got to experience, a Florida hurricane while you were here.
Oh, I did. And
Well, kind of. It
guess who
happened
looked
while you were
after
here.
me? Who looked after me? You
Who
and
looked after you?
Jackie. You did. You took me for dinner, and there was no one left. I was the only one. I think I was the only one. Kat had gone back. I was
Yeah.
literally the only one in the
Well, we
hotel.
really enjoyed it. We really enjoyed your company. So we were like, oh, she's here. So we get, when the convention's going on, Jackie and I are running around constantly. And so it was really nice to be able to enjoy your company and sit down and have a dinner and not worry about what was coming up next.
Yes, exactly. And then Peggy looked after me as well, which was
Yes, she did.
fantastic.
She
And
really did.
Sharon looks after me at the other side in Los
Uh-huh.
Angeles, and Peggy looked after me in Florida, and it was a joy. In a funny way, I'm kind of glad I was left alone because I
Yeah.
got to see and meet people I would never have had a chance. But it was a bit frightening at the time.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
have an aunt in Boca Raton. I was supposed to visit her in a
I
postdoc,
remember
but I
that.
couldn't. I couldn't.
Mm.
So, but it was, I hope this year there won't be any hurricanes.
No, just a virus. That's all. No.
Oh, God.
But you
Yes,
know what?
exactly.
Between I went live earlier and now it was one of those things that hit me and I went, I know how to do this because we were going, how are we going to have an audience and also do
Social
social
distance. Yes.
distancing? And I was like, well, I kind of hate to put 3 chairs over here and 4 chairs over there. That would be awkward. So one of the things that I hope comes out of this is the old supper clubs, because I certainly don't mind. This is for entertainment in general, but I thought, why don't we utilize that with the Sunburst convention? So that's where I'm heading. And remember, we had the rows of chairs. I'm
Yes.
I'm not going to do the rows of chairs this year. I'm going to put about 30
Tables and chairs.
tables, tables and chairs.
Whoa. So
And
the friends who come together can sit together.
Mhm.
Wow.
But they
That's
don't have to sit
interesting.
right next to someone that they don't know, and we'll have the tables far
Yes.
enough apart, and it will definitely be we won't have as many people in there, but the room will be full, and everybody will have their own tables, and I actually think it'll be a little nice. It'll be kinda
Yes, I
nice.
think it would be like a cabaret club. I like
Exactly.
that.
It'll be like a
Because when
cabaret.
I was thinking when we do jazz, because I sing jazz in London, we go to all the different venues. My favorite type is when they're sitting around tables.
Mhm.
It's more intimate and it's a lovely atmosphere.
It
So
really
that would be
is.
great.
Yeah, I kinda got excited about that. I went, I know how to do this now, so,
Yes,
uh
that would be great.
So, when I've seen pictures of you when you were on television, was it national television around the UK?
Oh yes, I mean I started doing TV. I was very lucky in the 80s. I got onto a number of programs which were I had a little kind of cameo roles on sitcoms because I was a character actress first and foremost. And then I got involved as a lookalike. I was on different programs as Sharon or Sherry Blair, dressed up fully to look like those people. And I did look a bit like Sherry Blair, I must admit, which is
Really?
interesting.
I was
Yes, I
gonna
did
say
have the same mouth.
that's we know who Tony is, but we don't know
Yes.
Sherry as well.
Well, Sherry was a human rights lawyer, and she was
Mhm.
quite strong actually in this country anyway. But I did with the wig. I have a very similar mouth. For some reason, I could do it. So that was great.
Did you
Um,
ever wear her wig out in public and maybe somebody thought you were actually her?
oh, yes, with the Tony Blair lookalike, because we were booked obviously by these lovely agents to go anywhere and everywhere. So once we were dressed and we were together, we did come across as if it was the real, pair. And
Mhm.
people believed that, they wanted autographs and photographs. So, yes, if we were in public places, which we did quite a bit of parties or big venues, we did a big, huge fairground that was famous. And people, they did come up and we had to be, well, you kind of bend the truth a little bit. But
A
and the
little
same with Ozzy and Sharon. We were in Oxford Street. My Aussie at the time, it was a few years ago, it was a different Aussie. And the traffic literally stopped and they thought it was Ozzy and Sharon.
no
And that
kidding.
was fantastic. But yeah, but going back to the TV, yes, I did. We presented backstage at the Brits, Ozzy and Sharon, and we were literally filmed, we auditioned and we got the part. And we went backstage and saw all the bands and everything and showed everybody what it was like behind the scenes. That was fantastic. And then for many years, I did a show called Beatles About, which was very famous hidden camera show. And that allowed me to do lots of characters. So I was a nun, I was a clairvoyant, I was bosses of companies, and we pulled the wool over people's eyes. It was quite interesting. I even got married at one point,
Oh,
pretend,
no kidding.
in a white dress, yeah, in a church. It was a full ceremony, and they filmed that. And the people that we were doing the show, about, fell for the trick. They fell for the 3-card trick and believed I was marrying them, which was interesting. So that hidden camera show
Did
was
you
very, very big.
did you get to a point where people would recognize Caroline as Caroline from the TV show? They're like, "You're that lady from the TV show."
Yes. Unbelievably, even when I was dressed as a nun, I was at an airport and somebody sort of pointed and said, "You were the nun in Beatles About." I said, "Oh my Lord, I had no makeup on. I was dressed as a nun. I happened to be Jewish. How could this be?" And it was very funny. But the other thing that meant that people did recognize me was for 8 years I did a commercial as a northern 70-year-old dressed in a white grey wig in Aunt Bess's, which is a huge food product. And I was with another girl. We were together, Mabel, and we were actually filmed for those 8 years every single year. And then we did sponsorship for I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, which was a very famous show.
I remember that show.
People just, even with that wig on, people, the power of television. You'd be on a tube and people would be staring and they'd say, "I feel as if I know you." And so television over the years has done that, doing quite a lot of commercials as well, which is okay. I mean, I'm all right about it. I don't get mobbed. So that's good.
Jamie said Beatles About was brilliant, and Aunt Bessie's too.
Oh, thank you. Well, they were big shows here, so I was quite lucky. I mean, Beatles used to get 20 million every Saturday night.
No kidding.
So, no wonder people recognized you because, as I say, television is very powerful. And especially if you're on the tube the next day, going to a voiceover, as I would, and people would go, or the next day, it was on a Saturday, so on a Monday, people would be looking and thinking, "I know that face."
Years ago, I was trying to do the television movie commercial actor thing, and I got a commercial for a local, a Florida hospital. As a matter of fact, it was called Florida Hospital, and they were doing a commercial about cancer patients and how much success they had had with cancer patients. And they must have had 50 of us in the room, and the camera, we were supposed to stand there like this.
Yes.
And the camera would just pan by all of these people as a voiceover talked about the success Florida Hospital had had with cancer patients. And I was also tending bar. That was my money maker, tending bar. And a guy came in and he ordered a drink and he went, "Do you have cancer?"
Double take.
Yeah. I mean, "Do you have cancer?" And I'm like, "Oh, no, you must have seen me in a commercial." He said, "Yeah." And I was like, "That's weird," because the camera just panned by like that.
But you have one of those faces, you see, Greg.
Maybe I do. That they go either, "What is that?" or "What's going on?" But I thought that was funny. But I was like, when I saw that stuff, I was like, I wonder if she was, one of those people, as I talk with Jackie, that I see people on TV and I go, "Who is that? I know them. I know them.
Yeah.
I've seen them before." And she's great with going. They were in such and such. Oh yeah. But go ahead.
Yes. Well, no, I was going to say that it's funny. I think I might have one of those sort of faces that it wasn't just the TV, because even when I wasn't on TV, people would still stare. And sometimes they go, "Do I know you?" And I usually say, "Well, I do a bit of TV. Maybe it's that." But I may have a twin or three,
Could
all
be.
over the country. Yeah, you never know. Because there's always, everybody's got a twin somewhere.
They do. I'll tell you this one story. I was working on a cruise ship out of San Diego, California. And a lady came up and they had our pictures in the lobby because I was on cruise staff. And she came and she said, I know you. I've seen you before. And I said, "Where are you from?" And she said, "I'm from Austria." And I'm like, "I've never been to Austria." And she goes, I know you. When I walked on the ship and I saw your picture, I said, "I know him." And I said, she said, where are you from? And I said, I'm from North Carolina, but I live in Florida. And she said, Florida. And I said, yeah, I lived in Orlando and I worked at a place called Medieval Times. And she went, you're the MC from Medieval Times. And then she said, I have a picture of you up in my cabin. And I was like,
Uh-oh.
what?
Uh-oh.
And she said, no, it's not like that. She said, whenever I go on vacation, she has a picture album and she takes certain pictures from different places she's been and puts it in her album. And she had a picture taken with me at Medieval Times and it was in her album. And I'm like, that's bizarre.
Fantastic.
How bizarre.
It is. Isn't it a small world?
It really is.
I didn't say one character which I'm doing at the moment, which is a throwback from the 80s, is, did you ever see the film Ab Fab?
Oh, yes. Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
so I'm doing one of the characters, Eddie, with a Patsy, fantastic Sue Bradbury. She is amazing as the Jonah Lumley character. And we go and entertain at gay weddings, which is great fun. We go on the
Oh,
top
yeah.
table
Yeah.
and we run in and out and we've already scripted it and learned it. And
Can we hear a little bit of that,
oh,
please?
darling, I don't know if I can do it. Darling, just don't, sweetie, darling, come on, one of those.
That was
very,
great.
very, very posh. He's always smoking. I got a false cigarette, which Sue gave me. You know those old-fashioned ones? You may not remember them, but talcum powder would come out the end of it. And because I don't smoke, so I have that all the time. And she's got the bottle of champagne. Darling, as soon as I've got the cigarette in my hand, I can do it with the long locks. It's all frizzy hair.
Yeah.
Darling.
Darling,
yeah.
darling.
Yeah.
Do you go in and act like you were one of the guests at the wedding? Is that the idea?
No, how it works usually is I get to speak to the groom, if it's a gay wedding, obviously, or the bride, prior to the wedding, and I get a lowdown on everybody that's important on the top table, and to see how far we can go with the comedy, because we have to be careful, and then they help us tailor it, and then we do the comedy. So when we get there, we are surprise guests, and we just literally burst in, and there's cameras and microphones that we've tested prior to that, obviously before the guests arrive. So it's all set and arranged, and then we go around the top table, and then after we've done our comedy speech and mayhem, we perhaps do a bit of meet and greet, and then we dance with them, and we stay right the way through to the end virtually. So it's a great night. But that's been a fantastic reinvention, if you like, of somebody I'd never done before. Because it's still going strong.
Yeah.
And one has to keep looking as an impressionist at people who would be booked and can be booked now. Otherwise, you sort of fall behind. And Sharon's fantastic, but it's nice to do other people as well.
Well, that's you and I have a lot in common with that, is that a lot of people have one act and that's all they do. And they do it very well, and that's fine. But you and I are looking at culture, pop culture, and going, what is popular and what is fun, and what can we actually do and do it well? That's the secret. So
that's right. I mean, it's fantastic to be versatile, but it does confuse people sometimes, being honest, because they don't think of me necessarily as Sharon Osbourne. They might think of me, oh, the last time they saw me, I was doing Nicola Sturgeon or the Queen or whatever. But in fact, the one character that I really love is Sharon, because she's so accessible, and I've adored hosting that, pop venues or doing award ceremonies, because Sharon suits so many different roles. She's very versatile as a character anyway. So I can sort of fit in, and I feel that she's my number one. So
she's your number one.
Yeah.
I had my number one had been Austin Powers for years, and I was planning on retiring Austin, and then the pandemic happened, and we started CelebrityGrams with a Z.com, which you were on there, and so I've pulled Austin out of retirement. I've actually started getting requests for these videograms again, these celebritygrams again. Yes. So that's wonderful, which is a British character, and my other character is Jack Sparrow. I was going to retire him because of my look. I'm too old to do Jack Sparrow. When a guest says, look, it's Jack Sparrow's uncle, you start going, what?
Uh-oh.
But my daughter Madison taught me how to redo my makeup and contour so it looks better. So I'm doing that. Now,
I like that. Go on.
No, I was
I
just going to
just,
ask you during the pandemic, what have you found yourself doing? Do you have a routine, or are you looking into new characters for when it's over? Are you catching up? What are you
yes.
doing? I know you're on
Well,
Facebook a lot because you catch me practically every time I go live.
yeah, I'm a bit of a night bird, I must admit. But if I
Yeah,
wasn't, I wouldn't catch you, would I?
that's
In
true.
fact, I've got two lives. I've got all my English people who I obviously comment on during the day, and then I've got all the American side, and then I ring my relations in America, and I've got my relations in Germany, and so all the time scale's different. And I've been doing things with Reese Whittock, who's Prince
Mhm.
Harry. We've done a few things, filmed and as the Queen and Harry. I've done audio for him, not dressed up fully, but
Mhm.
that's been fantastic. And lots of people, like one of my agent, like Susan Scott lookalikes, asked me to do little clips for her Instagram. So there's been a lot of little ask fors, but
Mhm.
I am contracted. I do a job every week for a relation, and I do all the voiceovers for all the doctors' surgeries throughout the country, out
Really?
of hours. And it's a nice, warm, straight voice. Well, that always takes me to 4 or 5 jobs a week. Small jobs, but that's fantastic. And I love doing them. But that kind of dried up, which is understandable because the surgeries weren't really open. You can ring a doctor and you can show them if you've got problems like we're doing online. But to visit hasn't been a very sensible thing to do unless it's an emergency, of course. So the surgeries haven't really been open in the same way. So what I decided to do was start filming here as me doing all my different characters dressed up. So that's what I'm working on at the moment, doing different edits and really kind of promoting myself more than I used to when I was out of lockdown, when we were just having a life and I was busy rushing around doing all sorts of things. This has really channeled my energies into finding out what it is I really enjoy doing and what the best way of promoting myself can be. So
Mhm.
that's what I've been concentrating on, apart from speaking to people.
Mhm.
And we do the clap on Thursday night. We do a clap for the NHS. So I see the neighbours 6 feet away. Um,
Mhm.
so I have kept myself busy, and
Well, good.
I don't know. I think that that's the only way forward. It's not just about housework for me. It's got
Yeah.
to be creative. So I'm learning more songs for my jazz singing because I'm doing a course, and I just love singing jazz, and that's keeping me busy as well. So I think just to be creative is what it's all about in my life. But if people aren't ready to do that at the moment, that's fine because they'll go back to it once, God willing, we're allowed
Mhm.
out. Please
Yeah.
let me out. But we still can't really go out. We can meet
Not
a friend in a
mhm.
park 6 feet away. One friend. We're not allowed to go to anyone's homes.
Really? Okay.
No, not yet. So we're very strict here.
Mhm.
So I don't know what's going to happen. It might be June. We may be able to, in phase 2 and 3, get out and about and see people. But as far as giving people hugs, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's going to be difficult.
We are in Florida, we are in phase 1,
Same as
and
us then.
yeah, the restaurants are at 50%, and they can seat people outside. There is an aspect of going out to restaurants that have outside bars, and
Yes.
people are going there, but they're not, put a little bit of alcohol in there, and the whole social distancing thing flies out the window,
Yes.
unfortunately. But there are no theaters. The conventions are
Nothing.
not happening right now. The Orange County Convention Center is planning a convention next month, and the Sunburst
Really?
convention, we're kind of following the standard of the theme parks.
Yes.
Whatever Disney does, that's what we're doing. And
Yes.
they're planning on
Well,
opening soon with restrictions.
wow. It is sort of more advanced than we are really. We don't have restaurants open. We've got takeaway restaurants who will uh, cafes will serve you and then you take it out and sit
Right.
down over there or whatever. So there are no restaurants at the moment that I know of that we can go to.
Really?
I saw a table and chair outside one the other day, a little cafe, but not proper restaurants. That's so sad. The music venue's tragic and theatres. So
Oh,
that's what hurts, really hurts.
mhm.
But I've signed up for
I
Sunburst
saw
in
that. I
case.
got that
Yeah, I
today.
thought, well, you know what? You're so enthusiastic about what we could be doing there.
Mhm.
If our flights get back to on a normal footing, I might be able to come over.
Hmm.
It just at the moment depends, because they're saying we have to be quarantined for 2 weeks if we fly anywhere. That could mean when I get to America or when I come back, because I'd like to see my relatives in New Jersey and New York. So
Sure.
who knows?
Yeah. Well,
It's one of those things.
we're just going to move forward, because
Yes.
I'm afraid if we wait and everything's okay, then we're going to be behind the eight ball, as they say. But if we
Yes.
move forward as if everything is going to happen anyway, and then they say,
Yes.
nope, you can't have it, we go, okay, shut down. But
Right. Because of this possibility of a second
yes, yes.
stint, it could happen. We don't know. I like to be half glass full. I like to think that it won't happen, and there
Hmm.
won't be a surge,
Hmm.
and that we can keep to these lower figures, and one day we may be free. But I don't know until there's a vaccination. I really, no one can tell. The moment they're arguing about, do the schools go back or they don't go back, the little ones, that they just don't know what to do. I
Yeah.
think it's a matter of choice. If a parent wants to keep their child inside and schooling at home, then let them, and we'll see.
I'm very fortunate in the fact that we are living in Winter Garden, and we have a single dwelling home. So I have a front yard and a backyard, and I can go out
Yes.
back, as you've seen. And I
Yes.
just hate for all the folks who live in the large cities who have a 400
Yes.
square foot apartment. They've got no balcony, they've got no
It's
backyard. And
exactly. I have walked around to the local park and round the block. That's where I walk. But I've got a garden, and it's been my godsend. I forgot I do gardening, so I have been doing some of that. I have
that's
to
good.
admit. Oh yes, I love it, and the colours and everything. It's a beautiful time of the year in
That it is.
England.
That
Yeah.
it is, yeah. Well, listen,
Yes.
I want to thank you so much, and it's good to see you face to face like this. I
It's
find you
fantastic.
so wonderful and charming, and I'm so glad we got to meet last year, and that you're a part of my life. And I go, I know her. Uh,
Oh, thank you, Greg. Well, we all love you, both you and Jackie and Madison, and you've just opened up a whole area of community that I have never met before, because they stayed in the Florida side.
mhm.
But really, for me, it's been an uplift having you all there during this time. I can't even tell you. I'm sure Jamie
Good.
feels the same way. That when we
Well, good.
come online, it's uplifting. It's fantastic.
Speaking of Jamie, he just wrote in and said all the Brits should charter a plane.
Oh yes, let's all the lookalikes. We could go together. Yes, we'd be. I know they have 2 seats empty. We'll just take the outside seat and the window
There you
seat too.
go.
And there you go, 6 feet. We can do
There
it.
you go. There you go. Well, I'm going to close this out, but once again, thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you on social media as this thing continues. And as they say, God willing, and the creek don't rise, as we say in the South. Maybe we'll see you in September.
Thank you. That'll be amazing. It'll be a dream. But
All right.
thank you so much. The interview's been lovely.
Well, hang
Really
around
appreciate it.
just a second, and we'll wrap this up. Okay. So don't go anywhere. All right.
I'm here.
All right. Thank you for joining, everybody. This has been Greg Thompson with the Sunburst Convention and Tribute Talk Faux Real, and we will catch you guys later. Have a good day.